Welcome back to Mystery Garage. Welcome to the second ever Sunday episode where we do things a little bit on the lighter side. In today's episode, can you make these disgusting US bumpers look good? Let's find out. Welcome back to Mystery Garage and our second ever episode on a Sunday where we do things on the lighter side. So in today's episode, we're going to get to work back on the Jetta. Last week's episode, I went out and picked this one up, and I've been having a little bit of fun this week, driving it around, that sort of thing. So I thought today's episode, we'll start to work on the aesthetics. Can you make these hideously ugly bumpers from the US look any good? So why in Canada and the US were we blessed with such hideously ugly bumpers? Well, it's because back in its time, these cars, when they were imported or insured on the roads or legal on the roads of both Canada and the United States, they needed to show that they could withstand a certain amount of frontal impact, same with the back. So in order to achieve that target, they ended up installing some shock absorbers, which are actually customary to a lot of cars of this era in North America and Canada to have. So they were in some US spec cars, that sort of thing, but Volkswagen influenced the same change to their bumpers to allow these cars to be insured and street legal in North America and Canada. So what it actually ended up doing was pushing the bumper out. So Volkswagen came up with a little separator that allowed to fill the gap between the bumper and the front end of the car, which is this plastic lip. So actually in reality, if you pull this lip off, there's about a 2 or 3 inch gap. What that ends up doing is it gives us a big enough bumper to have a buffet on. So this makes a pretty ugly bumper. The funny thing about Jettas is this bumper, the way it's set up, is actually very, very similar to its European counterpart, if not almost identical. So the only difference being is there's the shock absorbers inside, how it's mounted to the car, as well as this little separator gap on top. So what I thought to do was maybe we can find a budget way to make these bumpers look good. Now, I remember 20 years ago, or more, somewhere around that, when I was involved with Volkswagen at a very early age. Again, I didn't have a budget to work with, so what I tried to do was things on the cheap. You can similarly do something similar to the aluminum or the steel bumpers that came on the Rabbits as well. They're equally as ugly because they're pushed out so far from the body, but they're not all that much different from its European counterpart. Yes, the thickness and dimensions are different, but if you suck them in, they can look pretty good. You can do them, under a budget. You can make them look relatively appealing to the eye without being so hideously ugly. So what we're going to do today is try and tackle that, show you what I think I can try and do. Ultimately, if it doesn't work out, I'm going to end up ordering a set of European bumpers anyways. There's a hint though, in 1984 on the GTIs, they didn't actually have these shock absorbers. So you can separately order the 1984 GTI bumper brackets that won't have a shock absorber. I don't know why that was any different. Maybe somebody in the comments can let me know, but you can just order them, swap out the shock absorber inside for the bracket from an 1984 GTI, and bam, it'll suck the bumper in a little bit. Not all the way, but it'll bring it in quite a bit, and that'll make it look a lot different. But in this Jetta, I hate these bumpers. I even dislike the steel North American ones that came on Rabbits as well. One of the first things I take off and swap out for appearance on these cars is these bumpers. So I thought, hey, maybe we can take a budget look at this and make these things look a lot better. So first and foremost, I'm going to jack the car up. I'm going to take the bumper off. I'm going to start working on some of the service maintenance issues, as well as taking a look at these bumpers. So let's get to work. Okay, so the bumpers are off. You see what I'm talking about there. There's that spacer piece. Here's the bumper. Now you can see this bumper on its own isn't all that much different from, like I said, its European counterpart. The biggest difference being is these shocks. So we used to call this back in the day, 15, 20 years ago, we used to call this bumper tuck. Now my plan is when I measure the distance between, you can see right here, this is the lip of where that plastic skirt that's on the front of the car, this is where it sits, right on this lip here. So my thought is, when I measured it, I need to shrink the bumper 3.5 inches towards the car. So this is that shock I was speaking of. Right in here is where the absorber liquid is. It's been years since I've done this, but I remember drilling this out. You could actually bleed out that liquid in the shock and compress the shock. I'm not sure though that I can get it to move 3.5 inches to sit where I want, just because that's almost the total length of that bar. But either way, if I can't, I'll end up cutting this and shortening it and welding it back on. But at the end of the day, I plan to get this bumper 3.5 inches or 3 inches tighter to the car and get rid of this. In order to remove this piece though, it's got some click-in tabs. I do need to remove the grill real quick and pull this off, and then we can really start playing with it. All right, so there we have it. Took a shock off to show you guys what it looks like. It just bolts. There's a bolt that goes straight up through the bumper right here and it bolts in. You can see the other one's mounted just the same. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna try and take out 3.5 inches out of this thing, which might be nearly impossible. You can see on the tape there, it's about here. I'd even be happy with 3, but it just doesn't seem to be possible just strictly in this shaft. But if it's not, what we'll probably do is, you can see this is the cylinder here. It's slipped into that bracket. What I'm thinking we can do is actually cut this weld, force it back a bit, and then maybe re-weld it. Hopefully that might work. Anyways, end of the day, what I plan to do is have this thing 3 to 3.5 inches closer to the body. Funny other fact is I was digging in this bumper, taking this out, and I found this. For anybody who doesn't know, this is an old school hidden key magnet system. Funny thing is, I was gonna have some keys cut, so when I bought this Jetta, I only got one set. I went and checked these keys. They all work for the doors and the ignition. So how about that? Free set of keys. Pretty cool find. All right, let's try and shorten this thing. Okay, I think I found what I'm happy with. So what I did is, you can see this one here. You start by drilling out the end of the shock, bleeding out all the shock liquid. It helps to drain it by putting a side hole in it. Gives it the opportunity to fully drain out. So you end up draining out the liquid. Again, if you're gonna do this, caution, please wear eyeglasses. Understand this part's under pressure when you're drilling it out. So make sure you use the way I propped it out so it shot out the other way when it first broke through. It's not a ton of pressure, but it definitely can get in your eyes and that sort of stuff, and it's not good liquid to get in your eyes and that. So anyway, so what I did was, I found when I pushed the shock in, it wasn't quite enough. So I cut off, you can see on this one here, I cut off the end welds just here and here. And then what I did is, you can see when you line up the bolts, it's not a lot, but I shoved this shock back a bit. And then re-welded it just enough so it doesn't interfere with this bolt, and I seem to get enough distance there. It's about 3 inches shorter from hole center to hole center of the original shock. So you can see what a difference that makes. It's going to suck in the bumper that whole amount. So I'm going to quickly do this other one and I'll bolt it up and show you what it looks like. All right, so here's the test fit. Look at that. That's with the grill not in yet, so the grill will kind of eat up a little bit of that distance. To go to show you how extreme this was before, here's the piece. So right here, see that lip? The edge of this touched that lip in between the car. And so I took a good 3.5 inches out of this bumper. Look how good that looks. What a difference that makes. Is it worth it? Absolutely. Okay, so that was just a test fit. I'm actually going to pull the bumper off. I'm going to do a quick black bumper respray. I'm also going to take that license plate and holder and flip it upside down and undermount it. Again, that's really easy to do. That'll really clean up the front of the bumper a lot. The unfortunate part about this particular bumper is this chrome strip right here is missing. Hopefully I can maybe find somebody who has one, or even just replace this bumper with an original American one that I can find nicer, but you can see how much difference that makes. Wow. Okay, let's get to painting it. All right, so while I wait for the paint to dry, I changed the air filter, I changed the fuel filter, I changed the oil filter, topped up the brake fluid, topped up the coolant. Brake fluid was down probably more than half of the container, so I was like way below minimum there. Coolant needed to be added, and again, Volkswagen coolant, again, new fuel filter. Best case habit is to always make sure you pre-fill it before you put it on there, so you don't have any air cavitation in your fuel system. Oil filter is obviously normal, and air filter is normal. The one thing to remember is try not to take anything for granted or what the previous owner may have told you they've done. It's better to do a full reset. I can imagine, I can't really remember, but I think the total package here to refresh this engine was like $80. Oil included, filters included, air filter included, all that sort of stuff. So it was definitely well worth the investment. I still do want to do the timing belt at some point. It's a little bit of a laborious job, so I'll leave it for now, but I don't know when it was done last, so I would like to do that in the very near future. But everything else is all up to speed. I'm pretty happy with the maintenance of it. All right. Okay, so I went and put the front end back together after the paint had dried, and man, am I ever pumped at how it looks. Now, you guys ready for the big reveal? 1, 2, 3, here we go. Well, what do you guys think? How awesome is that? This is probably the best $12 this car has ever seen. All I paid for in this little front end revival was a $12 can of trim paint. Everything else was just moving the bumpers in, getting rid of that grotesque spacer they had, cleaning up the grille, cleaning up the bumper, and again, just splashing some paint on it. Now again, this bumper was rough. And you can see it when you get up real close. You can see there's like some damage to it, but from a little bit farther away, and for $12, this is probably the best upgrade this car has ever seen, like I said. So what I did on the lower trim where there was some rust, I POR'd it and then I rock guarded it. I may choose to color code that afterwards. So over top of the rock guard, color code it to the car's color. To be honest, I kind of do like how it looks like a little bit of a duckbill. So I may just leave that, because when you lower the car, that'll kind of have an effect on the overall look as well. But man, for 12 bucks, how can you go wrong? That is a beautiful, beautiful looking front end now. At some point, we're gonna have to hop into the back of the car and tackle the exact same thing in the back. Now don't forget, this process also works exactly the same for the steel bumpers or the aluminum bumpers that look, the US spec steel aluminum bumpers. They have exactly the same shock absorbers, exactly the same setup to pull them in close. I was able to even retain, moving the bumpers in, I was able to retain the fender brackets that are behind here that hold the bumper up and down. Those still are retained properly, still within their grooves. I didn't really have to modify anything at all there. It's not too close to the wheels, which is fantastic. Like I said, I truly believe this is pretty close to the European version. Obviously the plate frame hole and stuff are a little bit different. But overall, hope you guys like it. I really highly recommend you doing this to your own cars as well. We will do a full refresh on the side of the car. I'll be at some point trim painting the fenders. I'll be doing getting rid of the mud flaps. We'll do a cleanup of the little specks of rust down the side. We'll do a paint match there. Lots of little things to do ahead, but for a couple hours and $12 can of paint, man, does that ever look good. All right, one more look at that bumper tuck, you guys, hood closed. If you have any questions, you want to do this yourselves, by all means, feel free to hit me up or leave a comment in this video, or find me on Instagram under Mk1 build. Be happy to help you or walk you guys through, what I did here. Like you saw in the video, it's pretty simple. Anyways, let's take one more look. All right, so fun little maintenance day on the car today. Like I said, definitely the Sunday episodes are on the lighter side, but for $12, what a refresh that gave us. And it's definitely putting the car in the right direction. I probably won't end up keeping these US headlights. I'll probably try to go Euro in the future, but for now, this looks the way I want it to be able to, drive it with some pride. We do need to tackle the rest of the side of the car. Like I said, we'll do the similar thing to the rear bumper at some point in time. And a couple other mods, or quite a few other mods, will be coming for this car as well. But hope you guys like what you see. But thanks very much, guys. Till next time, take care.